Hello, everyone. This is Faye, and I sell Medicare plans. This is the podcast for this week, the week of AEP being over. So, I want to talk to you about what's been going on with the I Sell Medicare Plans podcast. Now, I know that it's been a while since we've had a new podcasts, but this podcast is just to bring you up to date with what's happened with us during 2022. Believe it or not, our podcast has really soared during 2022. The I Sell Medicare Plans podcast is still out there. It's still going strong. We're still gaining listeners, and 57% more content has been put out in our space by the iSells Medicare Plans podcast. In the business category, this is very important. Perhaps there are other podcasts who are out there daily in the insurance industry, but in terms of a business and owning your own business in an insurance niche, such as Medicare, we have actually put out 57% more content than our other podcasters. In 2022, we did our thing. We did it when we could do it, and we loved doing it. We enjoy bringing to you, our Medicare audience, all of those things that are important to selling Medicare products, offering Medicare plans, and knowing how to find the right people to offer those plans to. 2022 has been quite interesting for all of us because of so many different changes in how we conduct our business, but also because of the, I'm going to say, bombardance of telephone calls and emails and mail that our Medicare beneficiaries have received. It has only served to confuse the people that we serve more so than usual. This is not a good thing in terms of what information Medicare beneficiaries should be receiving and how they should be receiving it. But what it does do, on the other hand, is make our job really important. That one person that you can help to understand what the choices are, the one person who has the Medicare Advantage plan but calls you and says, do I or do I not have a Part C? That person is still confused and doesn't understand what the choices are. We can really simplify this whole process for the Medicare beneficiaries. And we simplify that process by saying, what it all boils down to is you're either going to do as the Medicare and You handbook says, option one, you're going to use original Medicare, the red, white, and blue card, purchase a supplement from any of the companies that you as a Medicare insurance professional can offer, and then purchase a Part D plan from, again, any of the companies that best fit your customer. That's option one, simple. Then option two would be the Medicare Advantage, which is also known as Part C, just to confuse everybody. Part C is what Medicare wants to call it. It's a Medicare Advantage plan. It can be an HMO or it can be a PPO. So those are basically the two options. What our job is and our role is to actually talk to the customer, listening for those clues that will help us to guide the individual to the right product. It's going to be one or the other. It is not my decision as an insurance professional to say, you need to do this or you need to do that. It is my role to guide them, educate them into what those two options mean for them, and for their household and for their pocketbook and for their medical needs, and let them come to a conclusion as to which is going to work better. Now, I can certainly guide them in that direction, and so can you. You want to actually be able to guide your clients to using the product that is right, either choice one or choice two. Either way, you're winning. And what you want to do is put your customer into a winning position as well. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about what the I Sell Medicare Plans podcast has done in 2022. In 2022, our number one show, the number one show that had the highest numbers of listeners, the number one podcast that grabbed more attention than any of the others is Medicare 101 meetings. This is very, very important. And of course, we have distractions sometimes. You probably heard the phone ringing. But what I want to tell you is the number one, the podcast for 2022 that had the largest listening audience and more replays and people who listened more than once is the Medicare and You Medicare 101 meetings. That particular podcast was our number one podcast. And I'm so happy. I'm happy that there were 317% more listeners than our average number of listeners who actually listened to that podcast. So some people did listen more than once, and that's great. Actually, we have 222% more listeners than average who listen to podcasts that were done in February, between February 13th and February 19th of 2022. And I just want to give a shout out because you know what that means? It means that everyone who was at the WIIN, Women in Insurance Niches Retreat for 2022 must have listened at some point to a podcast. I am so excited about that. So that means that even though we were at a retreat, people heard about the podcast who had never heard about the podcast and actually listened to the podcast. So I also want to give a plug in here right now. If you have not registered for WIIN 2023, coming up in February, again at Reunion Resort in Kissimmee, Florida, you better go out and do it soon. Now that you've gotten through the AEP, you can kind of balance yourself in what you're doing for the holidays. Go ahead and book your reservation for WIIN 2023. Now, let me get back to business. Actually, when we talk about the I Sell Medicare Plans podcast, we're talking about a certain group of people. And according to the statistics and according to the insights, the people like yourself who listen to I Sell Medicare Plans podcast are enthusiasts. You are people who are very, very interested in what you're doing. You're people who are super fans of Medicare. You're people who want to know as much as you can about Medicare and how to offer Medicare and how to be the best Medicare insurance professional. You are the people who actually do care about your Medicare beneficiaries. And I thank you. I just want to thank you very, very much for the enthusiasm that you put into your work, the enthusiasm that you put into what you do to take care of Medicare beneficiaries. And thank you for listening and supporting I Sell Medicare Plans podcast in 2022. And I am hoping that you will continue to look for I Sell Medicare Plan podcast. This is Faye, and I will be bringing you new podcasts for the 2023 season. Thank you so very, very much.